Today we will be going over how to graph sine. First off, I would like to go over the elements that come with forming sine. These elements include the amplitude, the period, and the phase shift. The amplitude of a sine graph is the distance from the minimum or maximum to the equilibrium, or in other words, the x-axis. The period of a sine graph is the horizontal distance before the graph repeats itself or cycle. Lastly, the phase shift of a sine graph is the distance the periodic function moves horizontally across the graph from the original sine function. We'll now be moving on to the parent functions. We will start with the points on the x-axis. We will use pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. The graph of sine starts at the origin, and the first cycle ends at 2 pi. The amplitude of the parent function of sine is always 1. The period is 2 pi. Now that we have the parent function down, we will now apply the amplitude, period, and phase shift on the graph. The first example will focus on the amplitude. The base function of amplitude is f of theta equals a sine of theta. A represents the integer, which will calculate for the amplitude. You must start by taking the absolute value of a. Now, given the function f of theta equals 2 sine of theta, your first step is taking the absolute value of 2.
I'm just thinking it's easier for us so we don't.
Once you take the absolute value of 2, it will come out to be 2.
And I'm also thinking if I'm gonna teach, I'd rather.
Now on to graphing. The parent function of sine must be plotted on the graph. Now apply the new amplitude onto the parent function. The graph will stretch vertically. Here's an example for you to try. F of theta equals 3 sine theta. The next example will focus on the phase shift. In its base function, c represents the integer which will break down into the phase shift. We will plug in pi over 2 for our phase shift. The direction in which the graph moves horizontally is based on the sign of the phase shift. If it is negative, it will move to the right, and if it is positive, it will move to the left. In our example, it is negative, so we are moving the parent function of sine to the right. Here is how it looks on the graph. Pause the video and try this example out. We will now put all the elements together in one function. The equation for the example is f of theta equals 2 sine 1/3 theta minus pi over 2. We will first find the amplitude. A equals 2 in the equation. When we take the absolute value of this number, our amplitude turns out to be 2. The value of b is 1/3. When we plug that into 2 pi over b, it gives us 6 pi. The period for this equation is 6 pi. The value of c is pi over 2. To calculate the phase shift, we must divide pi over 2 by 1/2. The phase shift equals 3 pi over 2 moving horizontally to the right. We will now put all the elements together in one function. The equation for the example is f of theta equals 2 sine 1/3 theta minus pi over 2. We will first find the amplitude. A equals 2 in the equation. When we take the absolute value of this number, our amplitude turns out to be 2. The value of b is 1/3. When we plug that into 2 pi over b, it gives us 6 pi. The period for this equation is 6 pi. The value of c is pi over 2. To calculate the phase shift, we must divide pi over 2 by 1/3. The phase shift equals 3 pi over 2, moving horizontally to the right. We will now graph the information we have found so far. Start off by graphing the periodic function. Also, make sure the graph stays true to its amplitude. Next, apply the phase shift to the graph. Based on the graph, the domain for this equation is negative infinity to positive infinity. The range deals with the amplitude. Since the amplitude is equal to 2, the range equals negative 2 to 2. When writing the x-intercept, we must denote it as 3 pi over 2, which is the first positive integer on the x-axis, plus 3 pi n, which is the distance between each point on the x-axis, where n is a real integer. Lastly, for the y-intercept, it is equal to 0, negative 2. For our final example, try solving and graphing for this. F of theta equals 1/2 sine 1/2 theta plus pi over 6. Thank you for watching.